Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for a different type of video than I normally do, but one that I think is going to be the beginning of a playlist on the channel. 5 books, this being 5 books that you should read in 2021. This is a video that is in conjunction with my personal channel. There will be a link to my personal channel in the description below, as well as a pinned comment from that channel. On that channel, what I did is I did 5 nonfiction books to read in 2021. Here, I'm going to do 5 fiction books to read in 2021, but I'm using the term fiction loosely because there will be short stories, which some people don't consider fiction, even though they're fictional, and poetry, because fiction, I'm not really that high on just making suggestion lists, but I do want to put poetry in almost everything that I'm doing from here forth with the channel, because I think there is an underrepresentation of that on the YouTube. So I am trying to pump YouTube full of poetry. Mondays here on the channel. Look, I've got new videos here on the channel Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays are for poetry. I also have new videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on my personal channel. Again, there is a linked comment from that channel, as well as a link to that channel in the description box. So 5 books for 2021. Number 1, A Guide to Survival. I know the things are, look, I'm joking. You don't have to have a survival guide for 2021, although it does teach you how to make shelters, building shelters, which might prove fruitful. Now, the number 1 recommendation that I have here for 2021, An Enemy of the People. I know everything is flipped. I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix that. It's I don't have the editing software for it, and my phone doesn't do it. My phone flips it. I know. An Enemy of the People, a play from Henrik Ibsen. There is a playlist for this play here on the channel. I have been overtaken with a love for Henrik Ibsen in recent months, over the past year or so, year and a few months or so. I'm not sure, 15 months maybe total. But when I read this play, I was so slapped in the face by how much it feels like current events that I couldn't express myself in the read-along playlist or the review here on the channel. Here we have from the back cover. In this powerful work, Ibsen places his main character, Dr. Thomas Stockman, in the role of an enlightened and persecuted minority of one, confronting an ignorant, powerful majority. When the physician learns that the famous and financially successful baths in his hometown are contaminated, he insists they be shut down for expensive repairs. For his honesty, he is persecuted, ridiculed, and declared an enemy of the people by the townspeople, including some who have been his closest allies. This play involves someone in a position of power who has a startling truth and is persecuted for it. Now, I'm not here for politics in general, but regardless of what side of the wide divide on which you find yourself, there is someone you consider powerful and outspoken about the truth who is being persecuted. Absolutely. There is a lack of dignity and honesty from the media in this play. I think everyone can agree that the media is garbage in today's world. There is a powerful corporation which seeks to capitalize financially on those things which are hampering the city. There is a health crisis. There are all sorts of things that feel so damn contemporary that I don't know how to really express it in words, but it is something that I cannot recommend highly enough for the world in which we find ourselves, as well as the fact that people keep finding themselves on the business end of an internet mob, which is the most startling thing about our day and age, but maybe it shouldn't be. These things are things which mobs of persecution have always existed. The trouble with the age of the internet is that they are all too easy to join. An angry mob is at your every fingertip. Click, 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 click. and you can join an angry mob. And it feels good, doesn't it, being part of an angry mob? Yeah, man, I don't think for myself. I let the mob do it for me. Anyway, next book, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Look, you were supposed to read it in high school, but you didn't. And if you did, you don't remember it. And if you do, you had no idea what it was about, right? This is not a children's book. This is something that should be read as an adult. This is something that feels... Look, the stock market is going a very different direction than the economy. That happened in the Roaring 20s. Oh my goodness, it's the Roaring 20s again. There is a pandemic. There is a mob of angry people. There is an entire class of individuals which don't really have the same worries as the rest of us. What this novel does is it humanizes even those 1%ers, which maybe we just want to demonize anyway. But the thing is, the humanization is a large part of this novel, even though the main character is a wet washcloth. What a terrible main character. The main character doesn't matter. It's what the main character is there to show you, the reader, that is absolutely pertinent no matter when you are partaking in this novel. So the reason that I think The Great Gatsby is always a good read is because, part of the reason I think The Great Gatsby is always a good read is that it lives in your mind regardless. You were, at some point, supposed to read it. Probably you got through some portion of it. The opinions that you had during that time are still inside you, and they will be reawakened when you read this novel. The real fun part about that is, if, say, you're like me and you were supposed to read it half a lifetime ago, and you're coming back to the novel, you get to judge not only the characters involved, you get to judge not only the writing of F. Scott Fitzgerald, you get to judge also the person that you were then, the assumptions that you brought into the novel because of things that you remember about the novel. How right or wrong were you? We have a review. There is a review on the channel for The Great Gatsby. Feel free to go and hunt that down. Next, The Hunger Games. Straight from the back of the novel. In the ruins of a place once known as North America, sounds about right, lies the nation of Panem. A shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in the annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. What? Is this a dystopian future, or is it right around the corner? This feels like something we should all be prepared for. I have an Adrian Reed's series on this on the channel. Adrian Reed's The Hunger Games. I was very excited making my way through this series to understand the literature that is underneath it. I assumed, because of the marketing behind it, that it was just another run-of-the-mill YA novel. It was not. It is very good writing. It is very fast-paced. There is a little bit of cliche love story, but hey, why not? There's a lot of things going on in this novel, and it might be a warning of things to come. The next book that I have is a placeholder of sorts. What I am going to recommend is not necessarily that you read this book in specific, but that you read a book like this in general. Sylvia Plath, The Collected Poems. Like I said earlier, there are new videos on this channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mondays are for poetry. I am doing my best to become more acquainted with Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath is a writer that is, so this is a selfish pick for me. Sylvia Plath is a writer that has always given me fits to start, but once I am able to sort of wriggle up a corner of a Sylvia Plath poem and peel it off of the refrigerator, that shh sound that it makes, once I am able to get inside one of these poems and really make something of it for myself, these poems are something that I really enjoyed. And I only have a few poetry discussions or poetry reviews on the channel for Sylvia Plath. I want to change that. I am here to recommend that everyone take a poet with which they have wanted to become better acquainted, but have not, buy a collection of that individual, and make your way through those poems. That is something I'm going to be trying to do. What I'm going to be trying to do, I'm going to try to take the stress off of myself from a creative standpoint a little bit, take a step back from that, and really just sort of read through some Sylvia Plath poems in general without having to feel the stress of making a video for everyone that I read. What I'm always trying to do is find some vantage point from which I might make a video, but I think what I'm going to do is just try to read these poems and not make anything of them. Try to read these poems and try to take something from them. So again, I think that poetry is something which has become underappreciated in today's world, in modern society, even on the literary corners where we might find ourselves. Finally, another book which serves a little bit as a placeholder, the Oxford Book of American Short Stories, edited by Joyce Carol Oates. These herein lie a lot of classic short stories. A lot of the short stories that end up being assigned in college courses, whether they find themselves into all of them or not. You have The Telltale Heart. You have Rip Van Winkle, The Storm from Katie Chopin, The Yellow Wallpaper, The Girl with the Pimply Face by William Carlos Williams, An Alcoholic Case from F. Scott Fitzgerald, That Evening Sun from William Faulkner, Hills Like White Elephants from Ernest Hemingway, Red-Headed Baby from Langston Hughes, Where Is the Voice Coming From by Eudora Welty, The Country Husband by John Cheever, Filthy Things from T.C. Boyle, The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, The Lottery from Shirley Jackson. A lot of classics in this compilation. But again, it need not be this compilation with which you acquaint yourself this year, but I think that short stories as well are very underappreciated by the reading public, insofar as the reading public even still exists. I think that one of the great things about short stories is that they help you learn you. Short stories, more than any other type of fiction, I think, help you learn what it is that you like to read. It was from short stories that I learned I enjoy literary fiction by reading Ernest Hemingway, even when most literary fiction was way too difficult for me. It was from short stories that I learned that I enjoy something called speculative fiction, from reading the short stories of George Saunders, and then realizing, oh, I kind of like that twist of what we're doing with speculative fiction, taking the real world and saying, yeah, but this is different. Not quite magical fiction, where you say, yeah, but this is magical. Just, yeah, but this is different. It is an ultra truth. It is the thing that I enjoy most about speculative fiction, is that it allows the writer the ability to employ some type of ultra truth. For me, where I really learned about this was George Saunders' 10th of December. One of the things that happens a lot in 10th of December is the inclusion of some type of imaginary drug. Now, what you have when you get an imaginary drug is that you get the choice of where to put the judgment of that piece. When you have an imaginary drug thrown into the literature, is the judgment involved, the judgment of the piece, placed on drug use? Is it placed on what it is that the drug is made to exploit? Is it on what it is that the drug is supposed to cover up? Another thing that George Saunders does a lot in 10th of December is he talks about inequalities, predominantly in the economic sense. I don't know why I'm talking about George Saunders all this much, when what I was pimping out here was the Oxford Book of American Short Stories, 2nd edition, edited by Joyce Carol Oates. An Enemy of the People from Henrik Ibsen. The Hunger Games from Suzanne Collins. The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald. The Oxford Book of American Short Stories, Joyce Carol Oates. They weren't all by Joyce Carol Oates, but she threw herself in here, and she has enough good short stories that she could have made a compilation of Oxford short stories simply for herself, and Sylvia Plath, the collected poems. That is all that I have for this video. Again, be sure to check me out on my personal channel, which will be linked in the description. I hope to see you back next time for another video.